Hey everybody, Star 6 Wars 1 here, and welcome to the next Months of Gynax video. For this one, we are taking a look at kind of an oddball, kinda not, Cutie Honey. If you do not know what Cutie Honey is, I am not surprised. I barely know myself. From what I have heard, Cutie Honey is actually an adaptation based on the live-action film called Cutie Honey, which is an adaptation of a manga written in the 1970s by Go Nagai. In short, Cutie Honey is an adaptation of an adaptation. Yeah, that's kind of weird. What makes this even weirder, this was directed by Hideki Anno, aka Mr. Neon Genesis Evangelion himself. And I'll say this is probably one of his more lighthearted works, but we'll get to that first. First up, the story, and I can't even describe it to you because it is so silly. Okay, think the monsters of Power Rangers with the magical girlness that is Sailor Moon with so much amounts of fan service that was Maharo-matic, and taking a person who can transform their look at will, and you have this anime story, you have this anime's basic setup in a nutshell. I wish I could describe it to you guys better, and that's probably not a great analogy to make, but that's the best I can come up with. It's weird, to say the least. But you know what? Kind of fun. The story never gets repetitive. It's only 3 episodes long. Okay, it's 45 minutes, but really it doesn't feel like 45 minutes. Which is a good thing. 3 episodes are pretty fast to get through, and honestly, the story never takes itself too seriously. It never does in Eva. It maybe will get 1 or 2 little moments, like serious moments, but even those are toned down pretty considerably, considering the person who directed this was the same one who directed Evangelion. This is a nice thing, to be honest. So I have absolutely zero problem with the story this time around, except the fact it is pretty silly. Next up are the characters. I'm not going to talk about any of them individually, but I will say that they're all their own shades. The villains are just stereotypical villains, but you know what? For this kind of series, it kind of works. And the main character, Honey herself, is a rather likable character, and I rather enjoyed watching her fight these monsters. Things. Don't even let me get me started on their attire, any of the characters' attire. If we went into that, I'd be here all day trying to describe the problems with it, but we'll get to that in a minute. Overall, the characters are actually they're either one-note enough to have their villain spotlight, or they're or they're likable enough that I enjoyed watching them. So, kudos to the characters. Really, one of the first oddball things you really have to look at with this one is the animation. It's weird, to say the least, and sometimes it feels like it kind of goes a bit more into a mess. FYI, it feels like Gynax being Gynax again, which is kind of a nice return to form after some of the other OVAs I've seen lately. But I also will admit that this animation is not bad. It's just one of those things of, you're either going to love it or hate it, and I'm kind of stuck in the middle. What I'm not stuck on the middle, however, and of the 4 categories, this is the weakest, is the music. The opening is not bad, and I kind of enjoyed it. However, the ending theme is not all that good, and the rest of the soundtrack just complements the show itself, but doesn't really stand out. So, there's that. Yeah. Now, I sound like I'm giving this a lot of praise. Why do I say that this is not the greatest thing out there from Gainax? Well, there's no easy way to say this. This show has so much nudity, it even rivals Mahoromatic as one of the biggest fan service shows I've ever seen. And before you ask, no. From what I've heard and from what I've looked up, that the fan service is a staple of Cutie Honey in general. Even back in the 1970s. That's the thing. Already, the fact that the amount of nudity in here is extremely heavy would put some people off right off the bat. And they probably would acknowledge that this series is not that good because of that, or just feels kind of insulting. And I kind of worry that's how some people might take it. Though you might be able to get over it with the characters and everything. But the nudity is something to be noted, and the fan service as well. They're unavoidable. Overall, this is actually one of Gainax's better OVAs, especially from what I've seen so far. In the months of Gainax, at least for most of the OVAs, this is, without a doubt, one of the best. I give Cutie Honey a 6.5 out of 10. If it wasn't for the heavy amounts of fan service and nudity, I would be giving this a much higher score. I had a lot of fun watching this, even with its more stupid moments. Which, yeah, that kind of does hinder the score a little bit too, but I do, for those who can look past the nudity in this, which I don't blame you if you can't. And even if you can, sometimes the fan service might be too much. But it's not terrible either. If you're curious, go watch it. If you're not, you're okay to skip it. Anyways, that's all from me. This has been Star 6 Wars 1, and I'll see you guys next time.